Okay, so yeah, I'm going to talk about Filament, which is unfortunately mainly for Laravel development. So yeah, so a bit about myself. I was told that apparently you shouldn't put pictures of yourself when you're standing here, but I already did that. I didn't change it, so they're there. So I'm Eddie, a lead software engineer at eVouchers. Same with Works. I've been developing PHP and Laravel for the past 10 years. And I really love spending my time in gaming, so World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Assassin's Creed, all that kind of stuff. About a bit of stuff we do, so eVouchers is kind of voucher distributing system, as it says. We kind of primarily working with disadvantaged families and kind of distributing vouchers to them. We have one of the companies who do 4-day week with kind of 80% of the time on them, so tomorrow's my day off, not doing any work, which is great. But yeah, speaking about, so what is Filament? Kind of going through, this is literally ripped off of their website. So it's a collection of full stack components with a perfect starting point for next app. Very vague, and I think they're really underselling themselves what it is. So the company that I work for eVouchers, they're part of a bigger umbrella company called Beyond, and all of our apps use Filament. It's because it's just so quick to develop. And I'll show you later how quick it is, and it just covers a lot of stuff. And the best part, you don't have to touch any JavaScript, which is great. And so Filament stands on a tall stack. Has anyone heard of a tall stack before? So tall stands for Tailwind, which is CSS framework, which probably everyone heard about. Alpine, which is kind of minimal JavaScript framework. It's there, you don't touch it, really. Livewire, obviously, and then Livewire. And Livewire, who anyone haven't heard about it before, it's a way to write responsive apps like JavaScript in PHP without really needing to write JavaScript. And I'm going to show you that a bit more later. My slides are very short because I decided to be brave and actually do a live demo, so let's see about that. So there's few components in Filament, and that's Filament kind of falls in all these areas, and this is kind of released be free. So there's panel builder kind of covers all your admin panel stuff. There's form builder, table builder, self-explanatory, info list builder. So imagine like a form builder, but you just want to display data. Notifications, actions, and digits. All of this really, like, I could talk about it, but it doesn't really make sense until I actually show you how it works. So I'm going to try to write some code. And that was smart. I wrote 2 types of projects once it's finished, just in case it doesn't work out. So I'll switch over to that if I need to do that. Where's my PHP song? Okay, cool. And that's definitely not the right app. Okay, so let's see it right. So okay, so this is a standard Laravel project. All that we've done is installed a Filament, and that's about it. Nothing else is quite different. So if I will open here using, I think I actually have it now. Yeah. So if I open here using just Laravel header, here we go. It should just open Laravel application. We should really close this. That's what happens when so many projects open. So what we're going to do first is probably set up a resource. So what I'm showing really is a lot of Filament panels, but the kind of things I'm showing on forms and tables can be extracted by itself. So you don't have to use a full admin panel to use the forms, tables, info lists. All of those components can be its own separate thing and injected into any Livewire component. So what I'm going to do, so this is a fresh Laravel project, so the only model I know it has is user model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a Filament resource for the model user, and at the end view I'm saying that I also want a view page. Once I run this, it's going to create us a new folder here, and it's called Filament, and it has user resource and some page stones. So if I open back this was quick in the admin. This by default ships out with it, and obviously it's all editable as you need, but I create myself an account very quickly. So you log in, as soon as I create the resource gets registered for me in the sidebar, and then when I open the resource, I can straight away see it allows me to set hero icon as I want, any changes I need to do. So, going back in the resource, if I click on the users, currently just an empty table, not really anything going to show. So let's set that table and kind of add some data in. So you'll notice that in Filament, in resource, I have this table method, which kind of defines what table is. So I'll say that this specific table, I want text column make to have a name in it. I want an email. And I want email verified at, which is also a date type. I'm just telling Filament what columns there is, and I'm saying that the last column is a date time, so it kind of format in specific format. As soon as I've done that, my users get loaded in. Simple, quickly. Okay? This table is missing a search, so what I want to do, I want to apply this is search of a table. Search. Simple and easy.
That was really difficult, can you say it again?
Okay, we want to do some filters for this table to quickly filter. So I'm going to add ternary filter. I can never spell it. Ternary filter, here we go. Which means yes or no, basically, just the fancy words of saying it. I'm going to apply a nullable on this, which means that nullable column is included. And I believe I need to pass a column here, which is email verified at. So that's probably not a great column to call a user, so save email verified. Format altogether. Load that in, you'll notice that filter now appeared. And now I have yes or no for email verified. If I click the yes, that just filters by all email verified. Simple, quick and easy, reset filter, it's all done. Cool. We have bulk actions already defined by default, which allows me to delete the user. So if I select this, bulk, delete, done, user gone. Okay, we have some actions here defined. Not a huge fan about these actions, so I'm just going to define a quick action group here, which that's how I like to route my actions. And I'm going to define a delete action per user, and then move the rest of actions. Boom, delete action per user. Okay, quickly made up users table altogether. What we want to create a user. My table is empty, so now let's be moving through form builder of this. I will not kind of go through all of this again because it would be very boring, but it's a similar way of building it, but I built this up and a suggestion using live templates, and I'm just going to go through what it is. So I created a form here, and actually let's lower this down. So I'm saying that I'm using a grid, which just creates a normal grid, and grid creates two columns, and I define two sections, which is basically two panels. I define an input that it takes in a text input, which is required field, another text input of email, which is also required field, and I'm going to apply some rules. So it's required, email, and it has to end with. So let's have a look at this first. Quickly just adding this, I have entire form, and that's all sorted. So if I make, I don't know, anagram, and I try to do something that isn't evaluate.com, that's straight away going to apply Laravel validation rule, and automatically it will return that to the user. Now bear in mind at this point page didn't reload, live wire sorted out all the background. Okay, what's next? Another section I wanted to add, which you can see on the side here. I wanted to be able to manually verify email. That's why I added a toggle here, and I just created whatever I wanted. I apply the chain method in this called live, which means I have to listen for this method. Something when this method happens might change my component. Exactly what that happens is, you'll notice that there's a date time pickup component defined here, but it's not showing current. I define this component with visible only the form get input manually verified at is set to true. How that works, I say yes, that's all I need. And that's just normal date pick. So if I apply evaluate.com, that user should be created, and it isn't. And actually, that's a good point I mentioned with Andy. So Laravel by default requires you to have a password for the user. We don't have a password for the user because the user didn't get created. So in create user, I can mutate data before creation, and that's just one of the methods we override. I'm going to say that I need a password, and I'm randomly going to generate the password and the current date. Let's load this page. There you go, user get created. So, by default, what Filament does, it uses the same form that you defined in the view page, but straight away it just makes it all a read-only. That's probably not a great way to show the data to the users. So how we can easily rectify it, we can use another one of the Filament things called info lists. So I'm going to quickly just define info list here. So it's public static function, same as a table or a form. I'll define info list. Pass info list, and it returns info list. Nice and good. Type variables. So info list schema, and once again, I'm pretty sure I defined the schema. PHPBelfast info list. Yeah. There you go. Let's just import all the things that we need to import. So, info list works very similarly like form, except in this case we don't allow to edit data, so it's just a text entry. So you'll notice, again, I created a panel, I just name exactly how it's in the model. On an email I did something else, I just applied an icon, and I also said that that field is specifically copyable, and I'm going to show you what that means later. And the text entry is exactly the same when defined data. So how each page changes now? Oh, did I? Yeah, I think so. It could be changed now to just a panel. So applied an icon as I asked you, and I clicked on it, and I just straight away copied it. That's it. Easy to use for anyone who needs to go on and use in the system. So yeah, so that's kind of info list and stuff like that. And the very last thing I want to show is actions. And actions is kind of nice and easy way we use a lot through your system. So take this view user component. Component says I want to have an edit action. And I want to define another action for me to do something else. Again, I prefer this action, so I'm going to quickly make it up. So I'm defining an action from Filament, I'm taking test make action, I'm defining an icon, and I'm saying I want to call up success in it. What happened here? It created that action for me here. So in action, for now, we'll just say something that Andy absolutely hates, DB hits. I don't subscribe to this, debugging thing. So when I click test action, that's exactly what happens. DB hits. Okay, but what if we want this action to actually, ask if we want to confirm that we should do this action? I could just apply. Requires confirmation. Now it's going to ask me yes or no. Straight away. I didn't need to do any additional work on it. By the way, all these headers and the text in the middle can be, again, by another chain method quickly changed up. Okay, simple enough. What if we want this to open a model and ask for some additional data? So I'm going to say form. Once again, before, like I showed you forms, we put exactly the same forms here again. So what I'm going to do is text input, make, I'm going to say test, and it's a required field. And instead of here now, what they can do is take in the data, because the data will be passed up. And what I'm going to show you is just DB method. So what happens now? When I click that, it opens the model with a form. I'll pass the data. That's just put out. And the very last thing, I'm really kind of rushing through these components. There's so much more in them. It's just I'm trying to show you as much as I can. Let's say instead of just DBing the data, we want to show notification. That was another components that I showed. So if I find notification, so that's another Filament component. I'm going to import that. So what I'm saying is make a notification at this point, which is a success notification. Title, I said you entered and grab data that we entered, and then send, just sending up to the user. Now this send method has a kind of two different parameters. I can say send or send to database, which will make it a database notification, and which will show later for the user. So once again, exactly the same thing. I enter something, submit, notification should then send. Simple. I think that's kind of speeding through a lot, all of this. And I think a lot maybe people have questions like, okay, well, there's some of these predefined components, It's very restrictive what they can use, what they cannot use. You can extend and make your own components quite easily, and they've done extensively with the new batches. Don't get me wrong, it becomes a pain when you want to go to the next version if you do it yourself, but it's absolutely possible, and our entire system, which is used by millions of users, is built entirely in this. So going back to my presentation, super. But I had it open. Even from start. Oh, here you go. So yeah, any questions?
Obviously, like the benefits there, you see one for like admin panels and things, being able to build them up very, very quickly. But I mean, presumably, Filament can be used on a purely application level. It can be used for every aspect of an application.
Absolutely. So our front-facing systems use tables and forms separately pulled out. They don't have to be used in panel. It just was easiest for me to spin out in panel. Yeah. But I can pull specifically any of these components that I showed you in any application separately.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah?
Does it play nicely with other, say you've got a front end that's partially Vue or React or something, and you want to be able to have some widget or some section that's using Filament. Does it play nicely with other sort of frameworks in the front end?
It shouldn't interact with anything, really. Livewire might interact weirdly with Vue.js being in the same page. I'm not sure how much you used Livewire before. But Filament itself shouldn't interact. You could have a Vue below and then specifically Livewire above, and those should work side by side quite fine. Anything else? Yeah?
What do you find writing automated testers?
That's another great thing about Filament. Automated tests are incredibly easy, and we actually even wrote up, sorry, I'm just going to show you an actual project that I'm working on, I suppose. This is going to take a while to load now. I'm trying to show something. So, some tests for filaments, for example, I'll just grab, I'm just trying to grab something reasonable. So, I suppose users. So, that's a create user test for Filament. It can run your page, it can say Livewire is successful, but I can at the same time create the user data, assert that fill form on Livewire call create has no errors. I can insert the validation errors is passed, and specific validation is returned. And the same way, I can call if tables, can see records, can see specific records, can even see specific actions of those actions I showed you. You can determine when those actions are shown, and those actions are showing in tests. Filament actually is one of the very good things. It works amazingly with both just PHP unit tests or test tests. Cool. Yeah, so if anyone is really interested, there's very limited resources on that, but pretty much you need to know Laravel, you need to know Livewire, and Filament has extensive resources there too. And there's a lot of tips and tricks. There is a huge Discord channel that the Filament kind of makers their own in there, and they answer all the questions. And actually had an opportunity to meet a couple of guys myself off the Filament team, and they're just incredible and very smart people. So yeah, thank you so much. Cheers.